Good morning, kids. Today I wanted to come out to you and talk to you about our Bible lesson. But first of all, I want to tell you, yes, I'm outside. You may see a cat come up behind me. You may see one attack my legs or whatever. You may hear my dog bark at me. But please don't get distracted by that. But what I wanted to come to you to talk to you about is because of God's creation. And a lot of times we ask questions, hey, what does God look like? Who is God? What does heaven look like for us? And you have all of these questions. Well, this week I studied and I gave a devotion to some of my girls that I teach, and it was about hints of heaven and what heaven may look like. And a lot of times when we have questions, our questions sometimes can stop us from maybe even coming to know Christ or doing that next step that God wants us to do. But I don't want us to do that. I don't want us to stop and say, well, I have questions after questions. I don't want to take that next step with God because I want to know more about God. But what the cool thing is about God, the more time you spend with Him, the more you're going to know Him, the more you're going to get to understand who He is and who you can become with Him. So like I said, today we're going to learn of what God gives us in His beautiful creation to understand a little bit of what heaven may look like. Now you're saying, well, okay, I have questions after questions. How do you know this is what it may look like? When I was studying, God said, if you're near to me, He will come near to us. He will give us these questions. He will give us these answers and let us know what they mean. And we're out here in the beautiful sunlight, and you're saying, well, what does the morning sunlight have to do with heaven? That morning sunlight gives us the reason why what heaven is going to look like. Because in heaven, remember, we learned from the Bible that heaven, there is no darkness. It's always light. God is light. And that's what that morning sunlight does for us. And that's what that morning sunlight reminds us of, is that there's no darkness in heaven. It's always light because God is light. So that's what that morning sunlight does for us. And then you're saying, okay, so what else does heaven look like? Well, if you listen carefully, you may hear some birds singing in the background, and a lot of times they sing very loudly. And you hear other creatures singing and doing other little things. That is teaching us, God's creation teaches us that there's going to be singing and praising God in heaven. That's what those birds teach us. When those birds, you're hearing a bird and you're outside and that bird is just singing loud and keeps getting louder and louder and louder, that's what that reminds us of, is that in God's creation, that when we get to heaven, we get to sing praises to God. We get to sing praises loudly to Him. We even do that here, even at church. We sing loudly to God because we're praising God. That is another glimpse of heaven for us. And then we look at the flowers behind us. I've got flowers behind us. And you're thinking, well, okay, what is those flowers? What is the trees? What is the skies mean about heaven? What does that teach us? That teaches us that is a beauty of what's waiting for us once we get to heaven. Because remember, God is preparing that place for us. And He allows His beautiful creation that we have, the morning sunlight. He allows that to show us and to remind us, hey, there's no darkness. There's no sadness. There's no sickness in heaven. The flowers means there's beauty. There's glimpses of beauty that awaits us in heaven. And the birds singing means that we get to sing praises to God loudly for Him once we get to heaven. So I'm hoping today you are reminded just to take just a little break from everything. Go outside, listen to the birds sing, look at God's beautiful sunlight that He gives us. Look at the beautiful sky, the beautiful flowers, and let that help remind you what God is doing for us and what we have waiting for us on the other side. So I'm hoping y'all have a great day today. Thank you.